Hi, Tyler. Just want to get your reaction to the DiJonai ejection and what you saw happen on that play.
In the moment, I thought that she made a play on the ball. I didn't think it warranted a flagrant 2. I didn't see the replay, when it happened. So that was my initial thoughts. But the officials made what they made. I haven't looked at that play since, so I really don't know if it was justified or not. But that's what I thought in the moment.
I put together a little clip of DiJonai Carrington, who is definitely one of the dirtiest players in the WNBA.
Yeah, so Carrington is a dirty player, probably the dirtiest player in the league. And then she has the audacity to go online right after her ejection and claim that she got ejected because of racism.
And then Cunningham gets into the face of DiJonai Carrington.
Chicago Sky head coach has reportedly suspended star player DiJonai Carrington after her confrontation with Indiana Fever star Sophie Cunningham. The suspension follows what many are describing as a fight during their recent matchup, where tensions erupted and led to a flagrant foul that has since developed into a major controversy. The WNBA is investigating claims involving hateful fan comments. The league announced the investigation after the incident, but the situation has now intensified with DiJonai Carrington receiving internal discipline from her own team. Sources close to the organization indicate the suspension is connected not only to the on-court incident, but also to DiJonai Carrington's behavior afterward and her reaction to the investigation that followed. The confrontation behind this unprecedented decision happened during the third quarter of an already physical matchup between the Chicago Sky and Indiana Fever.
These are the plays. Look. Yanking her down. Oh, that's a basketball play, y'all. And tell me if you notice a common denominator. Look. Basketball play, look. Basketball play. I didn't know you can rip somebody's hair out. That's a basketball. Look. Ankle injury. That's a basketball play, y'all. Look. Poke right in the eye. It's not this many basketball plays in the world. There's not this many coincidences in the world. She went up like this and came down like this and poked an eye. Knocked her all upside her head. Now she got seats. Like, this is what you call a track record. Look. Not even going for the ball. Like, come on.
But that's what
When DiJonai Carrington went after Sophie Cunningham, Cunningham quickly got back up and the two became involved in a heated exchange. Players from both sides rushed in right away and separated the pair before things could escalate further. The tension inside the arena was obvious as teammates worked to keep Cunningham and Carrington away from each other. The Indianapolis crowd responded with loud boos aimed at Carrington, creating an atmosphere that would later be described very differently depending on who was telling the story. As the Indiana Fever went on to secure a convincing win, the confrontation appeared to have ended on the court. But just hours later, social media was filled with claims that some Fever supporters had gone beyond normal fan behavior and directed inappropriate conduct toward Carrington. The WNBA quickly announced that it would investigate those allegations, giving the claims greater attention despite ongoing uncertainty over their accuracy. The league stated that it firmly rejects racism, hatred, and all forms of discrimination, setting the groundwork for what would become a highly controversial chapter in basketball. Now, however, the story has shifted after the Chicago Sky reportedly decided to suspend Carrington. Team sources say the organization was unhappy with how the entire situation unfolded and believed Carrington's conduct before and after the game failed to meet the team's professional standards.
Carrington made a basketball play, and the refs made a basketball ruling. So can we stick to basketball for a moment? Basketball play. She was attempting to go for the ball, at least she said so. She missed, and she missed egregiously. She missed, and she flagrantly hit Sophie Cunningham in the head. Now, flagrant 2, by definition, if you hit somebody with so much force that it could lead to injury, and if it doesn't appear to be a play on the ball. Though DiJonai's intention was to play the ball, her impact was all on Sophie Cunningham's head.
The suspension is reportedly open-ended, with DiJonai Carrington expected to satisfy specific behavioral requirements before she can return to the active roster. The Chicago Sky's decision to discipline Carrington comes after the organization had previously issued a statement that many believed reinforced accusations based on an inaccurate post from Twitter involving Indiana Fever supporters. That apparent contradiction has prompted speculation that the suspension may be intended more as damage control than as actual discipline, especially while the team faces backlash for promoting unverified claims concerning the Fever fan base. ESPN has given the suspension significant coverage, with analysts split over whether the punishment is appropriate for what happened. One headline put Stephen A. Smith and Monica McNutt in the spotlight, referring to a heated discussion in which the commentators were pressed about their interpretation of the controversy and their response to the suspension involving the WNBA. The situation creates challenges the league has rarely faced before. The WNBA has gained substantial attention from Sophie Cunningham's arrival and her developing rivalry with established players such as DiJonai Carrington. Television audiences have increased, social media activity has surged, and women's basketball is receiving more mainstream attention than ever. Yet the controversy, followed by Carrington's suspension, now risks taking attention away from the games themselves. For DiJonai Carrington, the punishment is a major interruption to what had been an encouraging beginning to her professional career. After becoming a standout at LSU and helping her team win a national championship against Sophie Cunningham's Iowa team, Carrington entered the WNBA with major expectations and a reputation for playing with intensity. She is now out indefinitely while facing scrutiny over her temperament and professionalism. Meanwhile, Sophie Cunningham continues making an impact on the court, setting records and attracting extraordinary attention to the league.
Guess when you take a girl's head off, people love that stuff. Quote, Sophie Cunningham, after Sophie had a flagrant foul on J.C. Sheldon being a protector for Caitlin Clark. Do you know what happened after that foul? In 1 week's time, Sophie Cunningham got 1 million new TikTok followers, got celebrated for being an enforcer. And a week later, Ring gave her an endorsement.
You guys know how serious I am about protecting my girls on the court. But what's protecting my home court, aka my actual home? The obvious choice was Ring.
That's what happened for Sophie Cunningham. DiJonai wrote white privilege in threads right afterwards. And my only problem with that is, which white privilege are you talking about?
The Chicago Sky now have to finish the rest of their schedule without one of their important players, at least for the time being. How the team performs while DiJonai Carrington is unavailable will receive significant attention, along with any comments from coaches or teammates about the suspension. If results begin to decline, there could be growing pressure to bring Carrington back earlier than expected, even if that means reconsidering the conditions originally established for her return. For the WNBA, the difficult task is figuring out how to benefit from the enormous attention surrounding the Sophie Cunningham and DiJonai Carrington rivalry without letting the situation turn into off-court controversy that overshadows the sport itself. How the league manages the investigation into fan conduct and handles. Carrington's suspension could determine whether this becomes an important, positive moment or an example of what the league should avoid in the future. As supporters and reporters continue processing the suspension news, debate remains over exactly what happened during and following the game. Game footage has been reviewed repeatedly, eyewitness statements have been examined, and social media activity has been analyzed in an effort to determine what actually occurred. The reality, as often happens in controversies like this, may exist somewhere between the different versions of events. What cannot be denied is that women's basketball has reached a level of national attention that once seemed unimaginable. The challenge now is turning that attention into lasting growth, instead of allowing it to become another short-lived controversy. That responsibility belongs not only to the league and its athletes, but also to journalists, social media companies, and fans. As the season moves forward, the hope is that attention eventually returns to the court, where an emerging generation of remarkable athletes is changing women's basketball and motivating millions of people. The Sophie Cunningham and DiJonai Carrington rivalry could become one of the sport's memorable storylines. But that will only happen if it develops naturally through competition, instead of becoming defined by suspensions, investigations, and disputes away from the court. For the moment, the basketball community is waiting to learn whether and when DiJonai Carrington will play again and how this suspension could affect her career, the Chicago Sky, and the WNBA. As the situation continues developing, one fact is becoming increasingly obvious. The WNBA is no longer operating outside the main spotlight of professional sports. Every matchup, rivalry, controversial incident, and public statement is now being followed, debated, and examined by millions of people nationwide. What began as a competitive basketball rivalry has evolved into something much larger, and Carrington's suspension has introduced another surprising development into a story that has already captured widespread attention. Yet beyond the arguments, controversy, and headlines, basketball is still being played. Athletes continue practicing every day, developing their abilities, competing against the best, and helping create a stronger future for women's basketball. Sophie Cunningham remains one of the league's most closely watched players whenever she takes the floor, while DiJonai Carrington is now left waiting to discover what comes next. Whether this suspension becomes a short-term obstacle or permanently affects how teams and fans perceive her is still unknown. That uncertainty makes the next stage of this story especially significant. The Chicago Sky must continue forward under intense scrutiny surrounding the organization, while the WNBA must manage the increasing attention focused on its players and major storylines. Meanwhile, fans will keep raising the same questions that have dominated online discussions. What actually happened? Was the disciplinary decision fair? Could the entire situation have been handled another way? And above everything else, what comes next? There may be no immediate answers, and reaching a complete understanding of the situation could take time. But one thing is certain, this story is not over. As the season continues, every matchup involving Sophie Cunningham, DiJonai Carrington, and the Chicago Sky will receive even more attention. Every reaction could be examined, every comment could be analyzed, and any moment during a game could quickly become another major story. While controversy can generate short-term interest, the larger objective should remain unchanged, expanding the sport and giving women's basketball the recognition, respect, and opportunity it deserves. The next generation of stars has already arrived, demonstrating that women's basketball can produce the same passion, excitement, rivalries, and unforgettable moments that sports fans have always wanted. The question is no longer whether people are paying attention. They clearly are. The bigger question is what this period will represent once the season concludes. Will it become a defining moment that helped the league continue its growth? Or will it simply be remembered as another controversy that temporarily dominated the news cycle? Only time can answer that. Until then, the basketball community will remain focused on what happens next, waiting for another game, another announcement, and another chapter.